Well, hello everybody. Happy Tuesday night to everybody out there. Week 6 just wrapped up yesterday night. We had our wrap-up show, and we're right back at it again with our preview show. I've got Joey Clinkscales below me. I got Vincent Turner, and we're going to talk a little bit about Week 7. We got 5 games on the docket that we think are pretty important, and realistically, I think are either must-see football or indications whether it's a division, title or maybe conference supremacy or who's going to host in the playoffs. Some good games on the docket. We got some ugly ones, but there are some good games, and we can go ahead and jump right into it. First one we're going to talk about, we got Bucks at Lions. Tampa Bay's riding high. I mean, realistically, you got the injury bug. Everyone deals with injuries at this time of the year and throughout, but for Tampa, it kind of seems they got hit pretty hard. They might get Mike Evans back this week. We're not 100% sure. Joey, the Bucks are rolling despite Baker Mayfield throwing to rookies and practice squad guys, and they're playing lights out and they're winning games against good football teams. Your thoughts on the Bucks coming into this game?
Well, the Bucks have handled injuries better than anyone has to this point in the season through 6 weeks of the season. So going into Week 7, Baker can throw to the freaking mailman, and guess what? The mailman will probably score a touchdown because Baker's that has been that dynamic through the first 6 games of the season. As you said, hopefully Mike Evans will be back for them. I'm not sure Abuka will be back for this game. It sounds like it's a hamstring, which could be, at least 2 weeks, if not a little longer. The other receiver's not back yet. They still have a running back out. But guess what? Baker's playing, and Baker, the definition of a leader and a franchise quarterback is you make everybody else around you better, and Baker has for certain done that. He's made everybody around him better on that offense, whether, you got a center playing tackle, whether you have a guard playing freaking nose guard, it doesn't matter. Baker's made everybody better. So, so Tampa's in a good position right now. And as I said previously, Todd Bowles has done a heck of a job leading that organization.
Yeah, I think Todd Bowles kind of be a dark horse candidate right now for Coach of the Year, right? At least in the conversation going forward. I know it's still very, very early, but Tampa's playing very well. They got another test this week, though, Vincent. You got maybe Evans is back. I think Godwin suffered a setback. They signed another running back on the practice squad today, so that makes me think that maybe Bucky Irving's out a little bit longer. Your thoughts on Tampa Bay thus far and going into this game against the Lions?
Man, you got to be impressed what Tampa has done, and right now they got the MVP. Boomer! Sooner! Boy, think about the young man's career. First-round draft choice for the Cleveland Browns. A lot of people thought he was dead in the water. He goes to Carolina. He's third string over there. Then he goes to the Rams. It seemed like he got in the system under Sean McVay. He played a couple of games over there, won some games. Then he came to Tampa. And I think he came, Joy, you could help me out. He came on a 1-year deal. Now think about, he went to Tampa when Todd Bowles was coming under a lot of flack. And what they say, a marriage made in heaven. Man, Baker Mayfield right now, in my opinion, is the MVP right now in the National Football League. And Todd Bowles was the Coach of the Year after 6 games. Back to y'all, gentlemen.
Yeah, well, I think without question, the first third of the season, Baker would be, if the voting were today, would probably be the MVP of the league. He's played that well, and we could talk about Todd forever. I think his personality, his mannerisms. There's a lot of things about Todd Bowles. Like, he's not a yeller and a screamer, but guess what? He gets his point across. He has a lot of good coaches on the staff because that's where the bulk of the learning is done, through those assistant coaches. And Tampa's played great, and defensively they've been underrated. They played some really good defense. They got that monster on the inside who can really play. They have solid corners.
Vita Vea.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. They still have a veteran linebacker leading the charge over there inside. So Tampa's in good position.
Vincent, you said third string Carolina. They had him on scout team defensive end, Vincent. They got the picture of him with his hand in the dirt. He's rushing the passer on scout team. Now, he's been lighting it up. The other guy who we think is probably maybe first or second, depending on where you're at in the MVP conversation, is Patrick Mahomes. And he just had his way with this Lions defense the other night. Is Joey, we go into Detroit coming off of a loss. Now they're 2-0 at home. They haven't lost yet. They've only played 2 home games. They're 2-2 on the road. They're going to host Tampa Bay. if you're the Lions, is this kind of a must-win game? Is this kind of a prove-it game? Because, I mean, you're coming off of a primetime loss against another contender, right, where Kansas City kind of controlled the game from the outset. You had that little skirmish at the end. I think, realistically, is this a game that they got to get in order to kind of move away from last week and all the bad stuff that happened?
Well, I don't know if it's a prove-it game yet or a must-win game yet, but I think they need it for sure. Again, Detroit's going into this game, and they're going to be down not 5 defensive backs, but 6, given the suspension. Okay, the knucklehead suspension that happened the other night.
Yeah.
So now, not only did it hurt his pocket, cost him a game check, have a suspension. Now he's hurt his team because guess what? He's not going to be available. They were already dealing 4 of the top 5 defensive backs were out. Now you have 5 of the top 6 defensive backs out. So, Baker has a chance to, if he can stay upright, the line can protect him. He should have his way with this secondary.
Vincent, your thoughts on the Detroit Lions coming into this game? The offenses still look pretty good. They kind of stuttered a little bit week 1, and then they did again against Kansas City. The reason I asked Joey is this a prove-it game? Because the 2 teams that you think are going to be there in January, possibly in February, are the 2 teams that they kind of struggled against. What are your thoughts for Detroit this week and going forward?
I think it's a huge game myself personally, even though they got a lot of injuries. As y'all just mentioned, they got 6 DBs out. One thing about Brian Branch, I saw the young man play at Sandy Creek High School, hell of a football player in high school, went on to Alabama. And him coming out of the Alabama system, man, you would think he would use his head. That's what's so crazy about what he's doing now. But getting back to Detroit, one thing Detroit understands, they're going to score points coming up Sunday night. So I expect it's going to be a real high-scoring game. But they got explosive players. Amon St. Brown, if he would have caught that pass in the second quarter, I think that Kansas City game would have changed a lot. But the thing that I'm going to take away from that game last Sunday night against the Chiefs, and I hope that they have some common sense, give David Montgomery the rock. He only had 4 carries last Sunday night. In my opinion, and he the most bruising back in the league, fellas. Why you only go run him 4 times on last Sunday night? That didn't really make any sense to me. But to me, it's a critical game for Detroit because you got to think, even though the Bears are 3-3, they had a big win last night against the Commanders. And Ben Johnson probably went in the locker room last night. Hey, I told y'all can be there. Look at our fellas over there that I was with. They lost to Kansas City on Sunday night. They 4-2. We only a game back. Back to you, fellas.
Yeah, David Montgomery did attempt to pass, though. And it was kind of a phantom, really late penalty on Jared Goff. It's a fun play. You could kind of see Andy Reid licking his chops a little bit like, hey, man, maybe I keep that one in my back pocket for later on, too. But,
yes, sir.
Joey, if you had to pick one right now, who's winning this football game?
I'm picking Tampa. Despite the game look like it's in Detroit, I'm still going to pick Tampa. Tampa has only lost once this year and quite frankly, could be undefeated. So I'm going to take Tampa because I think right now it's hard for me to bet against that quarterback.
Well, Baker's rolling, and Vincent, as you said, Boomer Sooner. But is Tampa going to win this game, Vincent? They're a little banged up. Both teams are banged up, right? This is just kind of a stoppable force versus a movable object where you have a secondary where everybody's out and then a receiving core where everybody's out, right? So if you had to pick one of these 2 teams, who's coming out on top on Monday night?
Well, I understand everybody, including Mr. Clinkscales. Of course, I got a lot of respect for him being a former GM, and I don't want to go against him. But however, I got to say,
and a former Buccaneer.
Okay,
a little bit of bias.
Okay, I forgot that, but I got to go with Mr. Bite Your Kneecap Off. I think this is a critical game for Detroit. I think it's a get back game. Tampa is the right team to come in because Tampa is hot. And I just think Detroit is going to pull it through. I think they're going to score a lot of points on Sunday night, and I think they're going to be rocking up there in Detroit, the Motor City. Back to you.
Well, like Joey said, I mean, I feel like the mailman could go out there and probably catch a touchdown on Monday night, the way Baker's slinging the rock, the way they're calling plays. Now, moving on to our second game, we got Colts at Chargers. Indianapolis is rolling. The Chargers kind of teetered a little bit. Omarion Hampton gets hurt. Joe Alt gets hurt. The offense has been up and down. They were victorious on Sunday against the Dolphins. A big drive late. Ladd McConkey makes a great play, ends up getting them the win. We'll start with Indianapolis. Vincent, what are your thoughts on the Colts? so far. I mean, they look like one of the best teams in the league. Daniel Jones is looking like a dark horse MVP candidate. What are your thoughts there on what Indianapolis is doing?
Man, you got to be really impressed with Indianapolis. It's like the old show, Gomer Pyle. Surprise, surprise, surprise. Daniel Jones, man. Can y'all be honest? Including yourself, Joey, and including yourself, Brian. Did y'all think Daniel Jones would be having I want to say maybe a great season, MVP season? Let's be real. He's playing outstanding football. I did not see that coming. And to me, they got one of the best running backs in the game, Jonathan Taylor. What is he doing? Carrying the rock. And we all know what type of player Tyler Warren was going to be. This is a
Yep.
very good Indianapolis team. And they surprised me, and I expect they're going to go in and win the AFC South. Back to you, Mr.
Well,
Brian.
you know what? I would think. First of all, let's talk about Daniel Indiana Jones because he's been impressive. You know, he's not the same
Yes, sir.
quarterback. He is the quarterback that the Giants were hoping they were
Absolutely.
going to get. Okay, but that being said, what he has now that the Giants didn't have is an offensive line, and everything goes back to the play in the trenches. Their offensive line, the Quentin Nelsons and those guys have been dominant, and they have given Daniel Jones the opportunity to make plays. And you know what? He's made plays. He hadn't thrown but one, maybe two interceptions all season, and he's played really efficient. He's made plays with his legs as well. So I've been really impressed with the Colts because, like you said, they have a all-star caliber running back. They have a good receiver core. They have a up-and-coming top 5 tight end in the league. So guess what? I think Indianapolis, they're trending in the right direction for sure.
Yeah, we broke down some film on this show on Tyler Warren in the offseason. I'll tell you what, it just jumps out at you, man. The kid can absolutely play. I think the Nittany Lions are probably missing his production a little bit right now. But I think right now, as far as the running backs in the league are concerned, right now, the hierarchy is Bijan Robinson and Jonathan Taylor up here, and everyone else is just kind of down here. What they're doing week in and week out is
one more guy, yeah. Rico.
Oh, yes.
Hey,
yeah,
you got to
yes,
give him
sir.
more than 2 games, right? Give me more than 2 games.
Well, those 2 games he had over 200 yards in both of them. So
yeah. Listen, Dolphins and Cowboys fans avert your ears, but let's go into the Chargers, Vincent. They're not winning in a pretty way. They've had a couple games. They've been in every game, right? Every game's seemingly close. They're right there in the division. The Chiefs are kind of getting hot. They get Rashee Rice back this week, so this is kind of feeling like if the Chargers want it to be their year, they got to keep winning, right? They got to keep rolling. They're going to have to keep pace with the Chiefs. Is that your thought process on the Chargers and what they're doing so far and coming into this game?
Well, in the National Football League, I don't care personally how you win. You pile up wins. And that's what the Chargers are doing. And Jim Harbaugh, he's doing what he's done at every stop he's been a head coach. They don't win pretty. They win ugly. And Justin Herbert, I think if he plays at an all-star quality, I think the Chargers are going to be the team in the AFC West. I would say this, Ladd McConkey, I got a lot of respect for him. Yep. He went in the second round out of the University of Georgia. Even when he was at Georgia, I thought he was a good player. But right now, in my opinion, the young man is becoming elite. And then, of course, when you got the stud at the free safety position, the Chargers playing defense. I don't have to mention the young man's name. He out of what? Florida State, Derwin James.
Yes, sir.
He playing at a high level. So the Chargers are winning, and I like the outlook of the game. It's 2 teams I want to look at that, hey, are these going to be serious contenders at the end of the year or moving in the playoffs, move on in the playoffs over there in the AFC?
Well, Joey, I mean, this is a game, if nothing else, we're talking about seeding, right? Because these are 2 teams that kind of expect to be there, come late December and January when things are rolling and the playoffs come knocking. Now, realistically, I think right now Indianapolis is the favorite to win the AFC South. The Chargers are right there in the mix in the West. Anything could happen, but your outlook on the Chargers coming into this game and going forward, what do you think? Is it realistic that they can win this game and then, potentially challenge the Chiefs and finally dethrone them and win the division?
Well, I'll put it to you like this. I think this is I'm not going to call it a must-win game for the Chargers, but it's very important. And the reason why is this is going to be a physical game because Indianapolis plays physical football.
Yeah.
This is going to be a knockdown, drag-out game on both offensive and defensive lines. Uh, the Chargers have injuries on their offensive line, so I think Herbert is going to be under pressure some. I just think it's going to be a physical game, and you know, I know the Chargers brought in a new running back who had over 100 yards last week.
Yeah,
I would be surprised if he were able to do that versus the Colts this week. I think Herbert will have a good game. I feel a little bit differently about Lad McConkey than Vincent does. I think he's a good football player. I think what you see in him is what you get. There's a difference between good and elite. There are a couple of guys who I feel elite that I would pay to go see. Unfortunately, Lad McConkey is not one of them. But I like his skill set. He's good for the system that he's in. However, if I had to bet, despite the game being in L.A., I would go with the Colts here because I think they're the more physical and healthy team.
Yeah, I will say I think this is kind of a litmus test game, right? You kind of see where each team is at. We're going into the getting ready to go into the second half of the season. We're through the third mark as far as games played, and both of these teams are knocking on the door. Their fans are saying, "Hey, give us some respect." We're up there. We're very, very good. I think it's time to put up or shut up, right? We're going to start kind of separating the men from the boys. Vincent, if you had to pick a winner, Joey's rolling with the Colts. Who you got in this one?
I like what the Colts have done. No question about it. I love the story with Daniel Jones, but they're going back to LA. I'm taking the Chargers. I think Justin Herbert is going to be on top of his game. I think he's going to play well enough. Mr. Clinkscales, I'm not going to battle and by no means step on your feet. And of course, you know talent more than I do. But hey, man, Lamb McConkey been serving them DBs this year. Just look at his stat sheet. Last week against the Dolphins, I know they the Dolphins, 7 receptions, 100 yards. The week before, he had over 100 yards receiving. I know what you're saying. He don't look the part. He not a big guy, 6'2", 6'3", but I'm telling you, that young boy been balling. Back to y'all.
Yeah, well, listen, as long as you're winning games, both these teams are, that's the important part. Speaking of winning games, the Eagles are a team that's kind of trending in the other direction right now, right? It's very, very different 4-2 than the Chargers, right? You're kind of excited and you're looking up, and if you're the Eagles, a very kind of disappointing 4-2, right? But you're still 4-2. Joey, we've kind of been critical of the Eagles the last couple of weeks, at least offensively. I think everybody has. The production's not quite there. They were winning. Now it's a little bit different that they're losing. Give me your thoughts on the Eagles coming to this one, and Minnesota coming off a bye, so they're going to be very prepared for this.
Well, the thing about the Eagles offensively, they've been a little bit bipolar. They've been up and down a lot. Quarterback play, the receiver play. They hadn't found any continuity in the run game. The offensive line has been banged up, which is why the run game hasn't been great because the offensive line has been banged up. I don't think it has anything to do with Saquon. I just think the holes aren't there. But that being said, the most disappointing thing about last week's game is the defense didn't play very well. And if the defense doesn't play very well and the offense struggles, then they're really going to have a tough time versus this Minnesota defense and going into Minnesota to play. So, this is going to be a real litmus test game for the Eagles to kind of see if they can get themselves back on track because they aren't playing championship football right now.
Well, they got a lot of help this week. Losses from both the Commanders and the Cowboys. Obviously, they lost to New York. Otherwise, the division could have gone over. But Vincent, I'm not going to say it's bad football, right? It's not clean. It's not crisp, but it's kind of what you would see from a team that's still trying to figure out their identity. But this is an Eagles team that won the Super Bowl last year. They got high expectations. A lot of people are wanting to see Saquon run for 200 every single week, and they want to see A.J. Brown scoring 3 touchdowns. That's obviously not the case yet. But Vincent, what are they trending in that direction? Do you like where the Eagles are going? What are your thoughts on them coming into this game?
Well, I'm going to say this. Last week, Jalen Carter didn't play in an embarrassing loss to the Giants, right? He was out. So he's supposed to be coming back this week. I remember 2 weeks on the show when I kind of missed the show, and there was a comment about the Eagles. And so I'm going to be smart this evening. I'm 65 years old. And I remember what Mr. Clinkscales said that evening to another certain gentleman who had to step down from the show. He said, pump your brakes. These are the Super Bowl champions. They still got good players in place. To be 4-2 and play this type of football, that should tell somebody something because, in my opinion, the Eagles are going to get it right. Jalen Hurts is going to get it right. The offensive line is going to get a little better. And they still got them two studs out there at the receive position. Even though A.J. Brown might be a little, I want to say, disgruntled, and Devontae Smith might be a little disgruntled. But when the Eagles get ready to play and they back up, they're the most dangerous team in the league. I'm just going to tell you like it is how I feel. And defensively, they're not the same team when they ain't got the University of Georgia dog in the middle and Jalen Carter. He makes everything go with the defense because he tying up two linemen and everybody, them linebackers flying around and making plays. That's how I see the Eagles. Now, do they get it right this week against the Vikings? I don't know. But once they start clicking, they're going to run away with that division. Back to you, gentlemen.
Well, I'll say this.
I think part of the concern, and I know we can move on, but part of the concern is how they're calling plays on offense.
Yes, sir.
They have the players to do different things, but I just don't think the offense is in sync, and not necessarily from a player perspective, but from a play calling perspective.
Mm-hmm.
This is Jalen Hurts, third or fourth new offense coordinator since he's been there, and I
Right.
just don't think that they have any sense of urgency at times when different things happen. So third down calls, I don't think they go into the game with a solid and clean plan on second and long, third and long. We already know what they're going to do with 4th and 1, but on the other downs, I just don't see any kind of consistency there. Along with, again, I go back to the injuries on the offensive line. Okay, so that will certainly impact the run game.
Being 4-2 and not playing your best football, honestly, it's kind of a cause for optimism, right? You're sitting here saying, hey, we haven't played well at all, and we're still 4-2. We're still in first place. As of right now, we're still slated to host a playoff game. So I know a lot of people are critical on the Eagles. I think it's just because the expectations are so high, but they're still winning games. They still haven't played their best ball. They're still winning more than they're losing.
Well, it is with the exception of the fact that you've lost 2 in a row. Okay, Now if those had been early and they were on a 4-game winning streak, then you would feel different than to start off how they started. Now you're losing 2 in a row. Okay, now you have a mudslide the other way. And you don't want the mudslide to turn into a freaking avalanche. So right. I think that's where we are. So all 4 and 2s aren't created equal.
Well,
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's a very good way to put it. All 4 and 2s are not created equal, and the Philadelphia Eagles, they still are the defending champs, so we'll give them that. But you have a 3-2 team on the other side, Vincent, the Minnesota Vikings, who, they're coming off a bye. Not 100% sure on J.J. McCarthy's status. Are they kind of licking their chops at this game, saying they're seeing like the Eagles are a little wounded right now? They're a little discombobulated. They got extra time to prepare. Is this a game where the Vikings are coming in at home thinking, hey, we got a chance to steal one from a very good team?
I'm going to say one thing as I look in the camera. Of course, the Vikings are looking to steal this, but what they better not do, Kevin O'Connell, don't make a quarterback change. Stay with Carson Wentz. J.J. McCartney is not ready right now. Please don't do that. Because if you do that, the Eagles are going to walk away with that game in the Metrodome. Carson Wentz has played very good football, in my opinion. Just look at the stats. Over the last couple of weeks, Jordan Mason has been carrying that load. Jordan Jefferson, his numbers have went up. He got almost close to 450 yards, a touchdown. Jordan Addison needs to get it going. But Carson Wentz has surprised me, gentlemen. And I think coming into this football game, this ain't the right time to be talking about starting J.J. McCartney. Back to y'all, gentlemen.
Well, you're right. However, both Carson Wentz and JJ are nursing injuries. So I think if they go to Carson this week, it'll be more because if they go to JJ this week, it'll be more because Carson really got nicked up and he might not be able to play. So they said that it'll be a game time decision which one of those guys they play. But Carson is nicked up, so I think that's part of the problem. And my question would be, is Minnesota going to come in after the bye like Atlanta came in after the bye when they played Buffalo? So I think there's a chance that could happen. That Minnesota could come in rested, and they could be playing a little possum. I mean, maybe Carson is ready to go, but they have no rush to say who the starting quarterback is going to be. I mean, the more time you have your opponent focusing on two guys, then they're probably not getting one guy right. So I think that's the outlook. And like you said, Minnesota have been able to run the ball. They have two quality big-time receivers. They also have a big-time tight end. Yep. And Brian Flores running that defense, I think may give the Eagles some trouble. I think, he'll put a lot of pictures out there that will change on the snap. So this will be an interesting game. The Metrodome is not the Metrodome anymore, but they'll be they'll be
the bank. The bank.
It'll be a great atmosphere in Minnesota this weekend.
Well, Joey, let me ask you this from a GM perspective, right? You draft J.J. McCarthy as your first-round pick. He's a top 10 guy. He's a quarterback. He missed all last year with injury. He's only played, a game and a half realistically this year. At some point, you got to put the kid out there just, if nothing else, to see what you have, right? I mean, if your goal is to build around him, then at some point you got to throw him in there and see what he's got and see what you need to surround himself with and see what you can improve on. Is that not the thought process kind of coming in? If you're in a 50-50 situation with both quarterbacks healthy?
I think it was a thought process starting the season, but just like last year when Darnold got in, you go with the hot hand. And Wentz is in and he's playing great right now and everything looks so I would not change in the middle of the season. Make a quarterback change just because JJ is healthy now. Because even when JJ started the season, and obviously it was the first couple games that he played, but out of the 2 or 3 games he played, he really only played a clean half.
The second half of the Chicago game,
that's it.
It was. Listen, there was a 21 play stretch that they had, which was beautiful football, right? They looked mid-season form, but the rest of it was like you're saying, it wasn't great.
No, not at all. So I would stick with the hot hand. All
right. Well, Vincent, I'm going to let you pick first this time, so you can't just piggyback off Joey. One of these two teams has to win, right? So, in your opinion, which team walks out with a W on Sunday?
I think the Eagles going to get it right. I think they're going to play Eagles football, and I think they're going to go in there and win the game. Plain and simple.
I want to pick against him this time. I want to go with Minnesota, but I just can't. I mean, I've seen the Eagles get better and better, and I know that they've kind of hit a wall right now. But I have enough belief in that offense, and especially those defensive linemen, to think that they can turn it around, and that defensive line can dominate anybody. My only real concern is the offensive line again, and if Brian Flores makes makes the Eagles one-dimensional, then they're going to win the game. They have to be able to throw the ball and run the ball this game. But for the purposes of this conversation, I'm also going to pick the Eagles because I do think they are the best team.
Well, if the Eagles win on Sunday, like both of you predict, then we can start saying maybe all 5-2 teams aren't created equal, right? And then we can move on from there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, next game. Now, this is an intriguing game, right? Now, the Rams, Puka Nacua is questionable. It's an ankle sprain. We don't really know the severity yet. They're probably going to keep that close and in-house up until maybe as close to kickoff as they possibly can. Joey, I'm going to start with you. The Rams, it wasn't pretty. It wasn't something that you're going to sit there and say this was an offensive, performance for the ages, but they get a win in Baltimore against a defense that was reeling, against a team in general that's reeling. They're kind of rolling. The Niners lose on Sunday, so the Rams are kind of looking to put themselves up the top of the division. I know the Seahawks keep rolling, but Joey, what are your thoughts on the Rams coming into this game and really up to this point?
I like the Rams coming into this game, and I know it's another West Coast team coming east to play the Jaguars, but you know what? I have belief in the quarterback. I have a lot of belief in the Rams defensive line because I think they have 2 real pass rushers that can get after the passer, and anytime you can put a lot of pressure on the Jaguars quarterback, I think he's prone to make mistakes. And although he didn't make any major mistakes last week, they still found a way to lose. after a big win versus Kansas City. So for me, I know the Rams can run the ball with Kyron Williams. I'm assuming Puka Nacua will be back. I would take the Rams this game. I would take the Rams by field goal.
Vincent, Rams are another 4-2 team. They're looking a little bit better than the Eagles were, right? I think spirits are high. I think they're running the ball, maybe not at a clip they'd like to be at, but they're still consistent. They're still having a lot of production from Kyron Williams. If there's anyone better than Matthew Stafford under center, or at least consistently over the last 10, 15 years, man, it's going to be hard to find him. But your thoughts on the Rams coming into this one, going into Jacksonville, with another game between a couple of 4-2 teams?
Very impressed with Sean McVay. When you look at the Rams and you look at them over the years, we say, hey, they're going to score points. Like you said, Matthew Stafford, Brian has probably been maybe the best under center the last 10 to 15 years, very consistent. But I'm like Joey saying, I'm very impressed with their defense, man. When their offense is struggling, their defense rise to the occasion. Jared Verse last week, 6 tackles. Tyler Davis, 5th-round pick out of Clemson, 6 tackles. Quentin Lake, Connell Lake, baby son at the safety position, 5 tackles. But a linebacker that was in Atlanta, Nate Lehman, over the last 2 weeks, the guy had 27 tackles. Last week he had 17 tackles and had a key tackle on the Ravens' 4th down, 4 downs last week. So this is an LA team that seems to me is very strong, even though they got some critical injuries. But Sean McVay, you got to give it to him. I got to agree with Joey. It's going to be hard to beat the Rams. The Rams, they rise to the occasion, their competition. And remember, they had the Eagles beat a couple of weeks ago. Remember that. So this is a Rams team that's very dangerous, man, and very balanced.
Yeah, top to bottom. That Eagles game is a reminder that there's 3 phases of football, right? You got offense, you got defense, but special teams is just as important, right? Especially late in the game. Joey, the Jaguars, they've looked pretty good, right? I think they've exceeded expectations. You got a quarterback, and it's kind of tough to call Trevor Lawrence young at this point, right? He's kind of getting near the end of his rookie deal, but he's gone through, a lot like what we have with Jalen Hurts, a slew of offensive coordinators and head coaches. It's just kind of been shuffling in and out, different personnel. They seem to have it working. Liam Cohen's doing a great job right now. The Jaguars, they weren't really rolling. They had a tough week. And as you mentioned, sacks and pressure in the Rams defense. We talked about that. The Seahawks sacked Trevor Lawrence 7 times last week, so they got after it. So is this something they need to worry about again? Because another good Rams defense coming into Jacksonville and a chance to, hopefully steal one on the road, from the Jaguars.
Absolutely. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to be under pressure. He was finally able to find his big-time receiver last week that hadn't scored a touchdown to this point in the year. But the run game wasn't very good last week, so they're going to have to get back on track running the ball, the Jaguars, that is. But, Trevor Lawrence, he's actually in his 2nd contract, and he's a $50 million a year quarterback. 50, 55, I think because the stats I read last night, he was like the 3rd or 4th highest paid quarterback in the NFL right now. But despite having, 3 different head coaches and 4 or 5 different coordinators, you're being paid as one of the top quarterbacks in this league. So at some point, you have to show that not just for 1 week, but you have to show that for 17 weeks. You need to show that on a consistent basis, and he has not done that consistently yet. So this would be the time where, like a Baker Mayfield, you have to lift up the players around you. That's what makes you a franchise quarterback, when you can lift up those guys around you. And to this point in his career, he has not done that on a consistent basis.
Well, Vincent, I'll go to you first. One of these 2 teams has to win. It feels like both you were leaning Rams, and I feel rightfully so, right? I think the Rams are a safe bet here, and I think most people would agree with that. I'm going to assume, Vincent, your pick is the Rams in this game?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay.
sir. I'm picking the Rams. Last week, I thought Jacksonville, after they win over Kansas City, I said, okay, here we go. Joey summed it up. Trevor Lawrence is getting paid a lot of money. What happens last week? Offensive line gives up 7 sacks. But this is the part that really upset me and let me know that Jacksonville's maybe it's not ready for big time. 10 penalties in the game for 76 yards. To me, when you're a championship level team, you're a disciplined football team. That's just me. And you play like that. Then, like Mr. Joey said, Travis Etienne only had 27 yards rushing on 12 carries. Brian Thomas Jr. still dropping passes. Had a key drop last week. The only thing I took positive for the game for the Jaguars last week is Travis Hunter made some good plays defensively, and he had 4 receptions, I think, for 20 yards. But to me, I'm picking the Rams. I want to see how Jacksonville is going to respond. And like Mr. Clinkscales said, I'm going to call him Mister. It's time for you, Sunshine, to start producing, baby. You getting paid. You get paid a lot of money. It's time for you to start elevating the franchise. I don't care how many coaches you had. I don't care how many OCs you had. This is the NFL, baby. You're supposed to be that player that's supposed to elevate over everything. Ask Baker Mayfield. We don't have to say no more. Back to you, Brian.
LA Ram legend Baker Mayfield, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, I will say this, Joey, before I ask you to pick a winner, this is a Jacksonville team that 8 days ago we were talking about right after the Monday Nighter. We felt pretty good about them, right? I mean, they looked really good against the Kansas City team that still a lot of people believe are a Super Bowl favorite of the AFC. Does that deter your pick anymore? I mean, I think you're already going Rams, but is it maybe we see that team as opposed to the one we saw on Sunday?
Well, they very well could have lost that game. They went down and they had a great drive and they were able to score it, and that was beautiful. That told you that they have the potential to play with anybody. Yeah. But along with that, they lacked the consistency to do it on a regular basis, and they hadn't shown that to this point in the year. I mean, you have a big break. I think they had 8 days before they played Kansas City. They won, and then they come back the next week and they lose. Yeah. Okay. And they lose to a team that they very well should have won. And not only did they lose, they gave up 7 or 8 sacks, and was penalized 10 times. So those things, Kansas City were penalized 13 times when they played Jacksonville. So, so penalties play a big part in the game. But again, the key to NFL football is winning the line of scrimmage. And when you don't win the line of scrimmage, it's hard for you to be productive. So if your best runner is going to rush for 31 yards, then you're going to have a tough time winning, because now you become one-dimensional. And they were able to take that dimension away by sacking you, 6-8 times.
Defensive linemen pinning their ears back and just smiling ear to ear on 3rd and long, right? It's a chance
they know you can't run the ball. They're coming.
Go get a sack, tick on the stat sheet, and then you get a chance to go at the end of the year and say, hey, guys, I hit my numbers, right? Let's go ahead and get that bonus paid out. But, all right, so, Joey, you're Rams, correct? You're
yes.
with LA in this one? All correct. Right. So you guys have been kind of hand in hand. Everything's kind of been consistent tonight. So it's good to see everybody on the same page. So we're going to go ahead and get into the last game, right? Maybe we'll get a little parity here. This is kind of an interesting one. Joey, we watched the Falcons last night. This is a team that just a couple weeks ago got 30-0. They lose at Carolina. They get a couple days off extra. I think it was 15 days they had to prepare for this one. And they looked very good now, albeit a banged-up Buffalo Bills team, but a Bills team that with Josh Allen and with that coaching staff, with their experience, we kind of still expect a little more than 14 points from them, right? But, give credit to the Falcons coming into this one. Maybe they keep it rolling. The Niners are banged up again. It's kind of a similar situation. Joey, what are your thoughts? We'll start with the Falcons on this game on Sunday night.
You know what impressed me about the Falcons last night is a couple things. Offensively, they looked like they really studied. They paid attention to detail. They came out guns a-blazing right off the bat, and they did some things. But more importantly, I think defensively is where I was really surprised, because they had Josh Allen under pressure a lot. And the thing about Josh Allen, if you can get in his face, that's why he threw the interceptions, because you got him off the spot, you had him running around, and he started to look like the Josh Allen for 2 or 3 years ago, where things get hot in the pocket and he started throwing the ball around, making ill-advised throws. So can the Falcons do that 2 weeks in a row? Well, to this point in the season, they hadn't shown that. I mean, they've been a bipolar team. They kind of play up one week, down the next week. But they're going into a place where San Francisco has been putting everything together with Gorilla Glue and tape. So and they've done a really good job of doing that, because you don't know who's playing quarterback from week to week. You don't know who's playing receiver from week to week. McCaffrey, who's had a history of being injured, has been the most consistent guy on offense right now, because guess what? He's played. He hadn't missed any time, and he's played at a high level. So I would like to bank on Atlanta going west and winning, but I'm just not there with them yet, because they've shown me that they have not been a mature football team at this point. So they haven't handled success well. So we'll see.
Well, Vincent, Drake London and Bijan Robinson were, I mean, really, that's all the Falcons offense needed last night. They were spectacular. They showed why they were both top 10 picks, while the Falcons thought so highly of both of them, bringing them in. This has kind of been a Jekyll and Hyde team. 1 week, like I've said, like Joey said, just need sign a consistency, right? They're not getting a lot of consistency. Now, they did play really well off a bye. Good teams win off the bye. They did exactly that. This one's going to be a little tougher. It's a former divisional matchup, right? So these two teams have some history. They got to go out west. Vincent, I mean, what are your thoughts on the Falcons so far and coming into this game against the 49ers?
Well, think about after they lost to Carolina 30-0, they came back with a big win over the Commanders. They went on a bye, and I was very impressed what they did on Monday night. I've been saying it for all season long, that they were the best team in the division talent-wise. I said nothing can hold the Falcons back coaching. I said it at the beginning of the season. I'm saying it now. Mr. Robinson proved to you he's a top 3 running back. I don't have to say no more. What, 236 yards total offense, 81-yard touchdown? Drake London, in my opinion, one of the top 10 receivers in the game. 10 receptions last night. What, 150 yards?
Yeah.
Michael Penix Jr. Now the Falcons are getting consistent quarterback play. Just think about if they would have had that a couple of seasons ago, especially when Desmond Ritter was there. They would have probably made the playoffs, and Arthur Smith probably wouldn't get fired. Okay, defensively, they went out and got 2 studs in the first round, Jalen Walker and James Pierce Jr. But I've been impressed with the secondary people, Billy Bowman, Boomer Sooner, Oklahoma, and Xavier Watts, touchdown
Yeah.
Jesus Notre Dame. There's no problem with the Falcons talent-wise. The reason they've been inconsistent this year is the coaching, man. And now what impressed me the most last night, as Joey said, looked like they had a plan. Looked like they did their working off in the bye week. Looked like they was ready to play. And true enough, Buffalo has some injuries. True enough, Buffalo might not be I want to say 100%, but this is a team that's made back-to-back, AFC championship games and had the MVP at quarterback. And they was able to step up. So I'm still saying, and I'm not getting off the mantle, it's just me. They got the best talent in the division if you look at the roster. I love the quarterback. Watching him play last night reminds me when he was at Washington as a senior throwing that thing to Jalen McMillan, Jalen Polk, and Rome Doozy. He was spinning it last night. Then B. John running that thing like he was at the Horns of Texas when he was coming out of college. And I want to give my homeboy Arthur Smith, even though he got fired, he drafted Mr. Robinson and Mr. London.
Yeah.
So when we look at it, of course, I understand what y'all saying. They got to show y'all. They got to show Mr. Clinkscales. They got to reel out about 3 or 4 or maybe 5 for the great man, former GM with the Raiders, before you start believing that, But I'm telling you, they're going to be flying on Sunday night up there in San Francisco.
Well,
Back to you, Brian.
Well, I think, I'm sorry, Brian, to cut you off, but I think Atlanta will become a real football team when they get consistency out of the tight end position. They drafted the kid high. They're really not getting much out of him. I mean, to be honest, I would be looking for a trade partner at this point. I really would. Because I mean, what am I getting out of position? Every young quarterback needs 2 things. They need a running game, and they need a tight end they can depend on. Now, you got one of the top 2 running backs, in my opinion, in the game. You have a Pro Bowl level wide receiver. You have a young defense that's flying around. But from an offensive standpoint, you have a quarterback in Penix who is really good throwing the intermediate balls, who's really got time in throwing the ball deep. But you need a tight end to help stretch the middle of the field, because if you get that, it opens up the rest of the game for everybody else. And that's what a young quarterback needs. He needs the tight end that he can depend on to help open up the field.
So
yeah, it is like a security blanket, right? Having that tight
Absolutely.
end, it's the closest guy to the line of scrimmage, right? It's the closest guy to when the quarterback drops back, especially for a young guy kind of getting in rhythm, right? Just get the ball out, maybe a little option route, maybe just a little, hey, sit down, those, those zone coverage breakers we give them, which the Falcons are doing a ton, right? You saw Drake London do it all the time, where it's just being on the same page, understanding, hey, if the linebacker's here and the DB's here, just sit down in the middle. We're going to get you the ball and give a chance to get in space. But sorry to interrupt you, Vincent. You had something else to add.
well, I'm just gonna ask both of you gentlemen right quick, especially Mr. Clinkscales. So you think Mr. Pitts is a bust?
Well, I'll put it this way. I mean, I hate calling guys bust, so I'm not going to use the word bust. But I will say he needs a change in scenery, and he needs to be at a place that he can grow. Because right now, he is a really good athlete who plays, to be honest with you, more like a H-back receiver than a H-back tight end. I mean, so to call him a tight end is really devaluing the position of tight end if you look at the real tight ends in the NFL. So
okay,
you can call it what you want.
okay. I'm just saying,
but you get my drift.
yeah, I got you. But when he start putting up them numbers now, are you gonna have a change of opinion?
When he start putting up those numbers, he won't be with Atlanta.
Now I'll say this: Cameron Jordan, famously on draft night when they picked him, said he's a little light in the butt to play tight end, right? Just a little bit. But
and guess what? That butt's still light.
Now, listen, he did have the knee injury a couple years ago. I know, listen, a lot of guys, I kind of give him a year's grace to come back, especially when you get hurt later in the year. But, I mean, he's had kind of consistency this year. Now, to be fair, the Falcons' passing game hasn't been all that consistent, right? And I think it's kind of hand in hand with kind of everything, right? You get a young quarterback, an underperforming tight end, a new play caller, right? I think all of those things kind of mesh together. But, well, at some point, we got to talk about the other team, right? The 49ers. And this has just been – Joey, just is there a more injured team in the league right now? It's I use the term plugging the dam, right? They keep plugging the dam, filling the crack here and the hole here, just because it's just, every single year since Kyle Shanahan, at least since they've been to the Super Bowl, it just seems like they're injured, they're banged up, and they're losing talent, but they're still winning, right? They're 4-2 right now. They're still in the divisional hunt, and they still got a chance really to compete for this thing and make the playoffs.
They lost arguably their best player in Fred Warner the other day for the year.
Yeah.
And, I mean, he did so much for that defense. I mean, he's athletic. He's instinctive. He's a coach on the field. He can run. He's got great football acumen. I mean, I can go on and on about the kind of player that Fred Warner is that they lost for the year. So that's a big hole to fill. And I don't know if you can replace him. You can put bodies in there to do a couple things, but, his unique skill set, along with his ability to be a coach of the field, will be missed for the 49ers defensively. And again, they have receivers in and out of the lineup. They have quarterbacks in and out of the lineup. McCaffrey, believe it or not, has been their most consistent player on offense. Even their great left tackle, Trent Williams, has missed games this year. So it'll be interesting. They've been winning with smoke and mirrors. They got Mac Jones having to throw for 350 yards every game to keep them in it. And quite honestly, that's not a recipe for success. When you have to throw the ball 52 times, you have to throw the ball 42 times. That tells you that either you're not running the ball very well or you can't run the ball and you have to throw. And guess what? Matt Jones has thrown to Bourne, who they played together for the Patriots. And Bourne has had a resurgence in his career because of that. So he's thankful to be in San Francisco for real, because they've had, their top 2 or 3 receivers have been out. So it's interesting. The 49ers are at home. Every time I want to pick against them, they win. I don't know. It's just hard to pick against them at home because Kyle Shanahan keeps finding a way to plug a hole and to do just enough to win a football game. So, this is an interesting game.
Yeah, obviously you have the history between Shanahan and the Falcons, right? I wouldn't say it's a revenge game. I wouldn't say it's a game maybe that he had circled on the calendar. I think you have all of them circled. But Vincent, we don't know who's starting at quarterback yet. We don't know if Pearsall is going to be healthy. We don't know if Juwan Jennings, who's been playing through broken ribs and a bad ankle, is going to be healthy. They said George Kittle's out till at least week 8. So he won't be in this one. We know Fred Warner's out. It's just, it's just band-aids and casts all over the place for this team, right? But they're still finding ways to win games. Should we be more impressed with the 49ers because of that coming into this game? I mean, is it just, do we give them their flowers? Do we give them kudos? Is it something they should be favored perhaps this Sunday against the Falcons?
Absolutely. I think when you look at any other franchise right now in professional football, you got to give love to the 49ers. And the injuries they've had, they've lost key Pro Bowl players.
Yeah.
Think about it. We talking about players that's super, super good at their position in the top 5, and they keep winning. Now, for me, Mac Jones, we thought he was going to be out of the league. And for some reason, he's playing at a high level. I know he's throwing for a lot of yards, but that's very impressive to me because Brock Purdy, he's another guy that's making 50 million. He has not lived up to that. You can say injuries or whatever, but it seems to me the 49ers seem like they're more explosive offensively. Christian McCaffrey right now is the most healthiest guy. Defensively, of course, when you lose Fred Warner, you might be losing the best linebacker in the game. You lost Nick Bosa. But I'm telling you, I like them 2 rookies, baby. I like Alfred Collins. He been balling out of Texas. I like Mikael Williams out of Georgia. D. Winters, the linebacker out of TCU. With the 49ers, you got to give it to Kyle Shanahan. As we say back in the hood, and Joy should know this in the state of Tennessee, next man up. Next man up. Ain't no right, Tennessee Vol?
Absolutely. Next
man up. So, yes, sir, Mr. Brian LeBel, you got to be impressed with the 49ers are doing. It's no question about it. To be 4-2, and you paid Brock Purdy all that money last year, and he haven't been healthy, and Mac Jones is doing his thing, roll tide. Yes, sir. All respect to the 49ers and to the GM, John Lynch. Back to you, Brian.
Yeah, they've done a ton of credit to him as well because they find players, they find practice squad guys, they're finding guys all over the league. Coaching has been tremendous. Shanahan finds a way to get him involved. When was the last time Kendrick Bourne had 100 yards receiving in a game, right? It might be COVID, but Joey, listen, I think you're leaning 49ers. I'm going to ask you to pick a winner in this game. I mean, I still think it'll be close regardless. I think whether Atlanta comes out on top or San Francisco, I think both teams are kind of on even footing. I think the Niners being at home and how well they're coached. Is that what you think? I mean, the Niners on top here, Falcons on top. What's your thoughts?
Everything is telling me to pick the 49ers, so I'm taking that Falcons. And the reason why is because of the defensive performance I saw Atlanta play versus Josh Allen last week. And I saw no receiver for the Buffalo Bills able to get away when the Falcons were in man coverage. I mean, there was no separation. They made it really tough for Josh Allen to find open guys. So from that perspective, I'm going to say that those guys travel well, and they're going to stay out of trouble over the weekend in San Francisco. So my head is telling me to pick San Francisco, but I think I'm going to pick Atlanta to go on a 2-game winning streak.
Some folks here in Atlanta, we call it Terrell Island, right? AJ Terrell, cornerback out of Clemson, where his brother is right now. Underrated, right? I think he's been very, very good. Not a ton of interceptions, right? But it's hard to get interceptions when the ball's not thrown your way. And as a DB, when they're not calling your name, I think you guys can both attest to this. If your name isn't being called on the broadcast, that means you're probably doing your job, right?
Correct.
Vincent, same question to you. You got to pick a winner. One of these two teams has to. Well, they could tie, but I don't know if you want to pick that. Which team gets the edge on Sunday night?
Last night, gentlemen, it was a beautiful scene of the people that came out in the Mercedes-Benz Dome. I'm looking on social media, T.I., Jermaine Dupri, 2 Chainz, Steve Brockowski. Man, it was some great Falcons there. Matt Ryan.
Yeah.
When the Falcons are winning, the city of Atlanta is at another level. It's almost back when MV7 was under center Michael Vick. So, I've been here for since 1996. I got to go with the Falcons. And I think they got a special team this year. I really do. I really think, like Mr. Clinkscales said, and you, Brian, it's all about being consistent. How you begin consistent, you won two in a row. You're going out there to Frisco with a banged up football team. You supposed to win that game. So again, to me, what's really separating them from being mentioned in the realms of a playoff team, it's all about the coaching, Raheem Morris, man. How he's going to have them ready to go out there on the West Coast this weekend. So I'm picking the Falcons. Back to you, Brian and
I will
George.
say this. I think I give the Niners a little bit of the edge as far as coaching, but
Mhm.
I think the Falcons are young. I think this is a game that if they want to be taken seriously, if they want to be a playoff team, if they want to keep track with Tampa Bay, they're going to have to win this game. They're going to have to find a way to do it. Well, that's all 5 games. We gave you the rundown from all 10 teams. We picked winners. Hopefully, everything you need to know going into Sunday and Monday with all the matchups. This has been our NFL Week 7 preview show. Fellas, you got anything else to say going into Week 7? Maybe, looking back on the first 6 weeks, which is crazy to think the season's already a third of the way over, but anything looking back or looking forward that we didn't mention?
Yes, we need to mention about the young man from Chico, California, doing his thing in the AFC North. The old man, Mr. Aaron Rodgers, Chico, California, in the house.
Yeah,
Absolutely. I'm a Steeler fan, so I like the fact that that's happening. But the NFL season has been extremely entertaining through the first third of the season. You've had some upsets, but teams are really, their DNA is starting to show at this point who they are, what type team they are, who has the best offensive line, the quarterback play. All those things have shown, and injury has played a really heavy factor for some teams like the Ravens, who has been decimated by it. The Niners, who've been decimated by injuries. So the second third of the season will be really interesting to see who can recover, and any team that doesn't recover by the second third of the season, they're already packing for Cancun.
that or mock drafts, right? Getting ready to see who we're going to get and if we're going to pick in the top 10. Well, if there's nothing else, fellas, I got Vincent Turner. I got Joey Clinkscales. I'm Brian LeBel. This has been 100 Yards of Football. This has been our Week 7 preview show. We'll be back at it again, same time next week, and we look forward to seeing you guys then.